Welcome back to Tailored Talks. I am Brad.
And I'm Will.
And we have a new addition to the OMJ team today. We have Miss Erica, off camera, but on the mic, and going to keep Will and I in line.
Yes, we need it.
I bet. Sorry, Colin. We had to...
Cullen 2.0.
Colin 2.0. Yes, that's right. Happy 250.
Absolutely.
So for those, we just celebrated 250 years, July 4th. What do we have on the wrist today?
So I've got an early 90s Hamilton masterpiece. Quite lovely piece. And Hamilton, of course, originally being an American watchmaker.
I was also, for today, I've got a 80s Hamilton day date.
There we are.
On the wrist today.
Double trouble.
I'm anti-American over here with my rotary from 1930s, which is a British brand.
Oh.
So sorry, I missed the
How
theme
about
on that.
that?
We will be talking
We
a
will be
little
talking
British
later.
style today. And with that, yes, with that, we'll have to remember, make sure we get Erica's wrist check always.
Always.
And yeah, where'd you get that?
I actually got it in Portobello in a little alley, a little watchmaker.
This is the
Very
best.
vintage. They had Cartiers and all of the Rolexes with the, what is it, pearl, mother of pearl faces.
And diamonds,
So,
yes.
everything.
Yeah. These are the best watch stories.
Portobello Road.
Yeah, these are the best watch
Market.
stories. So today we're bringing you Well-Dressed America. This is the history of fashion and style in America. This will be very hard to do in one episode, especially Will and I love a good rabbit hole. So Erica's gonna keep us moving. But something that we're very passionate about, obviously, as a fashion brand, but also something we may dive deeper into. This is something, if anybody's ever checked out Acquired, other podcasts out there that really do deep dives, we love that. Those inspire us, and we would love to do that on the fashion side of things.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll try and not be too esoteric.
Yes, keep us on point, Erica. So when we look at 250 years, honestly, it feels like a long time, but also really doesn't feel like that long at all, especially if you compare it to other countries and things like that. So I know for me, I really had to go back and research. And you're looking at things like 1776 is the official American independence, but there was no shopping mall, right? There wasn't that. That's not how you got clothes. So what was fashion like before? What was it like before 1776 and then 1776 after the Revolution?
For me, at least, as a student of history, it harkens back to, obviously, to Great Britain and other countries like France that had a lot of influence from a fashion perspective, a lot of imported fabrics, imported textiles, et cetera. And really at that time, London, in a lot of ways, dictated the fashion of the day, if you will. But in saying that, that was early in our history. From there was more of a democratization of style, right? And eventually leading to whether it be the American department store, as we know that model today, and the shifts therein, as well as haberdasheries and custom tailoring and bespoke tailoring, and then, of course, ready-wear or made-to-measure, and then fast fashion.
Sure.
So that kind of runs the gambit. But definitely early on, it was more of a formal take on dress.
And I think, too, you get to a point, and we'll see this throughout fashion in the American history, is we've succeeded from British control, and fashion evolves to be anti what was, right? It becomes fashion politically, where simple clothing becomes more patriotic. You're looking at how can we dress completely different. When you think about, even from the fashion choices of the soldiers in the fight for independence, you've got the British in these very put together, bright red uniform. and American farmers and
The redcoats are coming.
That's right. And the American farmers, it's just whatever they can scrounge together. But I found it very interesting. We moved to this sort of homespun movement. Your wife or significant other, or that's how you made your clothes, right? And of course, the ultra elite or privileged or wealthy individuals, they could pay somebody to make those. But for the majority of Americans, it was, hey, these are very practical clothing, and we're hard workers. And that became synonymous with the style. So not luxury, more utility and practicality.
And
so
I think sorry, Brad, I think you'll find that fashion as a political statement is the common thread in your conversation. So what you're talking about, this homespun versus imported fabrics, is a political statement that you can wear. So I think that might be a theme.
I think it's definitely been a theme, for sure. And we'll even get into it, it's always this tug and pull of what everybody's doing, what nobody's doing, right? How do we go against the grain? How do we go with the grain? So it's very interesting. That really leads us into the early 1800s and Will's perhaps first love in fashion.
1818, Brooks Brothers.
Brooks Brothers.
Quite a story there. Again, I'll hit on the democratization of fashion or men's style. Really, it wasn't until Brooks Brothers that Americans were able to find, say, a suit that they could wear not only to church, but they could wear daily. It didn't necessarily have to be custom. They were really known for a style that had a softer shoulder, something that really would fit the modern man at the time, with a few tweaks there in between, so less custom, more either ready wear or made to measure. And this helped a lot of, like, even from 1818 on, whether it was World War I or even World War II, a lot of these GIs and so forth, they were coming back to America after serving their country and looking for jobs elsewhere, different industries and so forth. And a lot of these industries would call for dress, right? Proper dress. And it was just out of reach for a lot of individuals. So I really credit Brooks Brothers for rewriting or righting the ship and guiding us into more of an approach that was less inclusive or less exclusive and more inclusive, I should say, rather. And from there, it spawned a number of brands. When I think of Brooks Brothers too, a lot of people might not realize, but the Civil War. So Brooks Brothers was the official clothier for the Union troops. So Ulysses S. Grant was fighting in a Brooks Brothers uniform. They were later referred to as shoddy at the time. Apparently, they were poorly made. But this sort of marked a period, though, in our
Brothers
history.
uniform division.
Indeed. But this sort of marks a period in our history where Brooks Brothers took note of where they could go post-Civil War, what they could offer up to any individual. So there's that inclusive, exclusive.
Abraham Lincoln famously was a Brooks Brothers guy. I think many of the presidents.
In fact, Abraham Lincoln actually was assassinated in a Brooks Brothers overcoat.
There we go.
Just really interesting, from Teddy Roosevelt, the Rough Riders, and then on up through today. They've dressed 40 of the last 45 presidents. And in one of the last presidential debates, the opponents were both wearing Brooks Brothers ties.
Incredible. Incredible.
So, pretty wild.
And did you know that John E. Brooks applied the button-down collar to dress shirts after seeing them on English polo players?
So true. We've got OCBD, the Oxford cloth button-down in
There we go.
1896.
There we go.
Right, became the defining American shirt collar.
Totally.
And love of any male fashion blogger over the last 20 years.
Indeed. And still very much in fashion today.
Would you say that Brooks Brothers is the original quiet luxury brand?
Yeah, I would even argue the birth of American fashion.
Sure.
So I think all of those, yeah. Now we're department store era, right? The industrialization of clothing, the Industrial Revolution, mass production. We're looking at a country that for many years, this is where clothing was made. For a long time, that was a huge industry in America. Sadly, is not today, but clothing manufacturing became a huge industry for America. And I think with Brooks Brothers leading that charge, I look at from there, we go into like other brands that were in this 1800s era. We're looking at Abercrombie,
Sure.
famously not the Abercrombie today, 2 blocks over.
1892, I believe.
They've gone the full gauntlet, right? But this was more outdoor wear,
Sure.
hunting, and famously worn by Teddy Roosevelt. We have Levi's during this time come along. LL Bean, great book bags. Never heard of them. We've got Woolrich, Pendleton, Red Wing. So we're looking at railroad workers. We're looking at the Ivy League man, right? This is synonymous with this era. And that takes us really into the early 1900s. And that's, to me, this is where I look at the birth of the modern country as we know it, right? This is the Great Gatsby. This is pre-World War I. This is, we're mass manufacturing, but this is the full uniform. This is New York, right? This is skyscrapers. This is Wall Street. So this early 1900s, and I look at that as where things really start to move in a way where just how people dress just becomes so important.
Sure, and there's so much influence from abroad, right? So many, obviously, immigrants at the time coming to this country for the first time and invoking sort of their own sort of take on fashion or on style. I think of Jacoby Press with J Press, right? And Latvian-born, comes to the United States, has an interest in tailoring, and from there is able to start his own business, which is still very much in business today,
Yep.
led by Jack Carlson. And it also is one of those heritage brands, very similar to Brooks Brothers in the sense that they've dressed anyone from Cary Grant to Frank Sinatra to
Will Jones.
well, that too, but and they've got all these interesting sort of hallmarks that dictate their take rather on OCBD, the Oxford cloth button down with a flap on the front breast pocket and so forth. So I just find that so interesting that a lot of these brands have been able to stand the test of time and weather these sort of often, frustrating at times waters from a retail standpoint or with the model changing.
Look, as a brand that's been in business for 13 years, it is really hard to be in business for a decade, much less 2 decades, much less a century, much less 2 centuries, right? It's really hard. You look at when some of these staple brands of the American fashion were created, and it's pretty incredible that they're still around today, especially when you consider this would have been one of the leading industries at the time, right? Things get bought. Let's say if tech is the super popular industry at the moment, these companies are getting bought and sold, right? So to have a history of brands like we do, I think I found that pretty fascinating in my research.
Yes, certainly. And to piggyback on what I was saying earlier as well, they've stood the test of time. That's not without a lot of difficulties along the way, right? So there have been bankruptcies, there have been a lot of buyouts along the way. You've got private equity. And in saying all of that, though, in so many ways, they've been able to reinvent themselves by going back to their core concepts. And I think that just really speaks volumes.
I agree. So we're into the 1930s, where I find America finds its identity. This is the birth of Hollywood. Movies are our version of royalty, right? Movie stars, actors are becoming style icons. And I think this is where I feel like style becomes synonymous with, it's not just, hey, I'm in a uniform. Now it's, hey, I'm being looked at as a symbol of this person has great style. I know this is right up your alley of movie stars. And
That era in particular later informed so much of the style that we have today, right? I think of someone like Ralph Lauren, and he was watching a lot of these films from the 30s, be it Cary Grant, a young Cary Grant, or any number of...
And especially on the women's side, we often do, from men, Erica's nodding, we're remembering the women.
I'm wearing an OMJ shirt dress.
There we go.
Incredible.
We do make for women. I would even say this is also the time where you're looking at the women's side really being dialed in from a style perspective.
Katharine Hepburn.
Katharine Hepburn.
I think of Bringing Up Baby or Philadelphia Story.
Inspiring a whole generation on that side of things, not just with men.
Sure.
And I think this era is so important, Will's saying, is because now you're inspiring the next generation. And so that brings us into the 60s, 1960s era, and the birth of the American designer. I think that really becomes apparent. We're looking at Will's ultimate love, Ralph Lauren, and Calvin Klein on the women's side, DVF, Diane von Furstenberg. And you're looking at the birth of this designer who they're putting their label in it. So it's no longer a big department store. Now it's brands that are going into department stores. And now we're really dividing from stylish to practical to really getting the individualized fashion.
And did you think this is also a pivotal moment in women's fashion with Jackie O?
Yes, I'm not a woman, but I would say the ultimate muse for women across America had to be Jackie O. You have somebody who's young, becoming the first lady, and really inspiring, still inspiring generations today. We've got fabrics that we show that literally are inspired by Jackie Kennedy. It's incredible from that standpoint. Yeah.
And there's definitely, I think, a shift as well between breaking out of something tailored, breaking out of maybe something a little bit more military from World War I, World War II. We're starting to get into a Vietnam War era. So you have those who are protesting and not wearing suits, more free flow, more loose fabrics and bell bottoms and
Back
denim.
to rebellion.
Definite, again, that thread of rebellion, which I think we've seen this whole time, but I think this is maybe one of the more pivotal moments in our history,
Incredibly
again,
pivotal.
of very clear lines.
I think fashion I think it can tend to, and this is what I think is great about it, right? So we look at fashion one way, everybody has their own take on it. And I think time after time in history, a central theme is imposed, and then before long, that doesn't fit everybody, right? And it shouldn't. And so people get, in some way, maybe tired of it, and they create their own. And that inspires a whole other subculture. And ultimately, this is why you get very circular things, where things going out of style and back in style.
And not to sound too old hat, but it's always been interesting to me that when I think of the latter half of the 20th century, we always think in decades. Oh, that was very 80s. Oh, that was very 90s. We don't do that anymore, or at least I don't. It seems like from 2000 on, I don't know. It's as though I think there is a little bit more freedom of expression from a style perspective. You're borrowing from these eras that were really pivotal in our history, whether it be political, whether it be social, whether it be geopolitical, which is just always striking to me.
Yeah, I can agree more.
And I definitely think it's been interesting watching the women move from more homespun dresses into wearing suiting, wearing a pencil skirt with a jacket, whether that came from a military uniform to when they had to take and cover the jobs while the soldiers were away, and almost, especially the dress pant, when women were able to break out of the skirt and the dresses and start wearing pants. And I know it's really hard to find a well-fitting pant, even now. So I think that's just really interesting watching that shift. And we can go ahead and just skip the early 2000s and those low-rise jeans. We're going to pretend those never existed.
Yeah.
But I think to the circular motion of what you're talking about, everybody takes what they like and everybody leaves behind maybe the less desirable
Sure.
fashion of that era or that decade.
Yeah, we could break down each of these decades for sure. I
The
agree. with
edit
you.
continuum.
I agree. From our timeline, right? So we're in the 1980s, and this is where your things are shifting again, especially for men. Right now, fashion is now becoming a symbol of power and wealth. Think of Wall Street, and from an economic time period, this was a crucial time period of economic growth for the country.
What movie character comes to mind when you think of the 80s
Yes.
suit?
I've said it before, but Gordon Gekko.
Gordon Gekko, for sure.
Greed is good.
Greed is good. The Wall Street power suit, right?
Chalky pinstripes.
Chalky pinstripe.
Double-breasted.
And it
Winchester.
How are the shoulders?
very wide. You know, it's interesting because I think fit was not necessarily even a factor. It was the cloth. It was the price tag, the label. And it's so interesting as things are overarching and then fine-tuned. It was truly the symbol of, hey, this is power or greed or wealth or whichever way you look at it, but it's still surface level. I brought this label, that means I'm this.
Sure. There was this sort of excess is paramount.
Remember, if this is it more 80s or 90s that women started wearing shorts, like the dress shorts, to the
Yeah.
office with their blaze
I think that's probably a great segue to the 90s.
to the 90s.
I mean, you're really getting a little more streetwear, hip hop, minimalism. I think coming out of the 80s and dressing up in a suit, I think in the 90s you really see that starting to shift. And I think you're starting to see things are more accessible for a larger audience, right? So people are able to make better decisions. There's more TV channels. There's more TV shows. This is an era where you can find your place without just where you live, perhaps your
We've
neighborhood.
got catalogs, mail
Yes.
order. The department stores are still going strong as the anchors, but now,
The birth of the mall.
yeah.
We could do a whole episode on
5-part series.
this, and the Gastonia Eastridge Mall, perhaps too, deserves its own episode.
Days of yore.
Yes. No, I think that's late 80s into the early 90s. The mall was everything. And with that, you've got a hangout spot, and you've got people of all walks that are there, and they're finding their department store that they relate to. I think, yeah.
Yes, certainly, and a real melting pot of styles, of people, of perspectives. I think specifically in coming out of the 80s, rather, I believe it was 1985, the birth of Tommy Hilfiger, and how much he was such a sort of a scion for street culture or hip hop, and how that sort of bled into whether it was Michael Jordan's endorsement of Nike over Adidas at the time, which was very controversial. And so there were these signifiers of you fit in, right? If you had a pair of Air Jordans. You fit in if you had a Tommy Hilfiger jean jacket. It was almost like there was this...
Especially in certain cultures.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And almost as though there was a club aspect to it, but not a physical one, right? And I was certainly a part of it.
And
As were you.
so in the 80s, Troop Beverly Hills, lives in my mind.
Don't even get me started.
I think that's one of the few movies where they show custom tailoring
What movie?
on screen. The mom, who becomes the troop leader, has her tailor adjust and fix and come up with new articles for these essentially Girl Scouts.
What movie?
Troop Beverly Hills.
Oh, Troop Beverly Hills.
Introduce
Yes.
your kids to it.
Yes.
Nice.
Beverly Hills 90210.
Oh,
That's the next. We're not in the 90s yet. But that's one movie that comes to mind as well.
Yeah.
Just seeing it come to fruition, the requests, and we want this, and uniforms are not individuality, and this is how we stay within the lines, but we blur them a little.
I love it.
definitely. Great movie.
Great movie.
I need to watch it.
Yes.
So we are in the 90s. Again, this is really the rise of the streetwear. Some brands I could read off. Thought this was interesting. Of course, Tommy Hilfiger. FUBU, who can forget?
Oh, boo-boo.
FUBU, Sean John. This is when Supreme was born. Marc Jacobs. A lot of brands that still exist today. It's also interesting, the style icons. You're going from 80s, you're looking at Richard Gere and Grace Jones or Princess Diana, right? And now in the 90s, you're looking at Tupac and Kate Moss. And there's folks who would maybe not fit a traditional style icon mold of the old sort of American fashion, but this new streetwear fashion becoming their own.
Yeah.
And then there's Cindy Crawford.
I was saying, and then there's Pretty Woman, where just, Julia Roberts in her skinny dress and Richard Gere in this beautifully tailored suit, walking on Rodeo Drive. Nobody wants to help her. Just
And what a great movie for the underdog, right?
Yeah.
I think that resonated with so many people. That could be me. I could literally be Julia Roberts, and I would walk into these stores, and nobody would help me because I'm not wealthy or I'm not rich. I think that was a real shift. Yeah.
yeah, and her fashion, just that red dress, like shifting from maybe what was a powerhouse, the power suit in the 80s, to maybe a more sexy, freeing woman into the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to speak on that, I think so much of that came out or was born out of the sexual revolution. And so these slimmer silhouettes or women having a little bit more latitude as far as their own sort of informed personal style, that really came into being, especially in the 90s. And Pretty Woman in particular, one of my all-time favorites. In fact, I own the soundtrack on CD, and I was listening to the physical CD last week.
Oh.
It's so phenomenal. I am the king of wishful thinking.
There we go. So that does lead us to the 2000s. We won't per Erica.
Please don't.
talk
We can
about
skip.
early 2000s. But
Skip that.
you
The
know,
what decade?
I think we all were in high school in the early 2000s.
Thriving.
There we go.
It was like the rise of Abercrombie in my mind.
The
Like, Taupe was
Abercrombie
where we were
renewed.
kinda going.
Sure. And I look at the 2000s, and this holds a super special place, I think, for all of us, but especially for me. This is what inspired Felipe and I to start OMJ, and that was really to encapsulate what we were inspired by. Some brands during this time, you're looking at like the rise of J. Crew. Of course, Gap was very influential during this time. Banana Republic. These are brands that sort of had been around, and now we're getting big I can remember a different rendition of Brooks Brothers, right? So that had kind of come back and was very popular. But for us, and I was being right in the thick of it, it was this renewed sense of craftsmanship really started turning. Made in USA had a huge renaissance. We were right in the thick of that, and I think that was like, if that had not been going on at that time, I don't think we would have created this, because that is what inspired us. Hey, we can create something too. And the early Old Mason jar was all 100% made in USA. And that was such a tight window for us to have created this that if we were too early or too late, we probably never would have. And we look at that late 2010s, or sorry, late 2000s and early 2010s and the rise of that, which also led to custom clothing.
Ah, that old thing.
That mid 2010s was the absolute start of this sort of custom clothing renaissance, back to slow fashion, this idea of buying fewer but better things, this idea of, hey, love the brand on that, but how about no brand? How about no label? How about no character on my polo?
Sure.
How about I make it well and it's made for me and it fits great and I can add my own touches? And I think that kind of leads us to like where we are today.
Yeah, and I'll say I'm impressed, frankly, of OMJ standing the last 13 years, because from where I sit, 2010, 2013, that's the rise of the blogger. That's the rise of the influencer. This is the rise of fast fashion for me in the truest sense.
100%.
And moving into 2019, 2020, all of a sudden there's Amazon drops, or Anthropologie gets what used to be the department stores would get their allotment for the season. And once that size is gone, it's gone. But now there's new drops every week, new product. The sales racks are full, but they're full of viscose and
Yes.
polyester
Yes.
and acrylic. So I think moving through 2020, now to 2026, we are seeing that shift again back to more natural fibers, materials, a desire to dress, I'm not going to say better, but more intentional. Like even when leggings were at peak, I feel like leggings are moving, they're gone.
It's a super casual thing that you perhaps only wear at home.
Sure.
The brands are coming out, when I think of Aloe,
Yeah.
coming out with a wide leg tailored pant, Lululemon with their ABC pant for men. Like, I think that there's a desire, but not necessarily in a fabric that's
Right.
natural. I know that I do. I want linen, I want cotton, I want silks. I want to be able to breathe and not feel like I'm in a sweaty armor of clothing.
Yeah.
And that's where I think education, scholarship surrounding all of this is so key. Just to better inform yourselves. And again, I've said this a trillion times over, not to evangelize, but if you're going to do anything, read up on the fabrics you're wearing. Because 99% of the time, even those athletic shorts you're wearing are nothing but, and for me at least, it's a major heat conductor. So you're not necessarily doing yourselves any favors. And don't shy away from wool. We tell guys that all the time.
Is literally where we started in 1776. It was wool and cotton. And that's how they made clothes.
Sure.
And that's still the best way to make clothes today. We can add a touch of the modern, a little touch, 1, 2, 3% of maybe some higher end materials that can make the garment a little more comfortable. but you still need that garment to be primarily natural fibers. Natural fibers, yeah. And I'll tell this story. The original old mason jar. We're following this timeline, right? And if anything, I would say Felipe and I have always been. We always have tried to. You can never look forward on the trends, right? But we have made sort of educated guesses where we think things are going, and a lot of this is either just our own gut feeling or what we kind of see through our lens, right, and our experience. And I've told Will's heard this story. I may have even told it on this podcast, but we started as a off-the-rack, very casual clothing company, which was as of the times, right? 2010s, where this is 2012, 13. American craftsmanship, made in America. And then saw this writing on the wall of this individualization and this slow fashion, this buying fewer, better things. Of course, we see this rise of this influencer with social media, but we're great at seeing things that are, hey, this doesn't have legs because they haven't put in the work, right? Dozens of guys who wanted to be an influencer but had no experience in the fashion world, right? They wear a couple things, people tell them they look good, they want to be an influencer, right? We knew this stuff would not last, and there are very few influencers today, right? But anyways, I tell this story. I remember talking with Felipe and saying, hey, I think we really need to get into the custom clothing side. I really think that's where this industry is going, and maybe not for everybody, but for a small brand in Charlotte, North Carolina, who looks at, I'm a finance guy, so margin is important, right? And I'm looking at this and I find this thing that we can really be different and we can make ourselves a little more unique. And I can remember we had gone to the Biltmore for New Year's Eve, and Felipe, my wife, Hannah, and I were riding home. And I just had this overwhelming conviction, we've got to do custom clothing. And I'm telling them, I'm in the back seat, I'm literally posting a New Year's Day post, or as we're driving home from the mountains, and I'm like, we've got to get into custom. And they were vehemently against it. No. What? No, absolutely not. And I'm like, that's where we got to do it. We have to do it. We have to focus on that. And we did. And
Look at
we're
you
here
now.
today.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And today we do over 80 to 100 suits a month. And so we're still a very small shop here in Charlotte, but we carved out our own place in this fashion world. And that's something I'm very proud of. And we don't hold a lot of inventory, which is the ultimate clothing brand killer most of the time. So that brings us to today. I have a couple fun things that I thought we could do. First question, are we entering another golden age of American fashion?
I'd like to think so. I want to be as cautiously optimistic as possible, right? But yeah,
And golden age being, these are the times when people care the most.
I tend to think so. I think that there's more individualism than ever.
More brands
There
than
are more
ever?
brands, there are more resources, there are more sort of colors in the crayon box.
I was going to say more self-expression, more acceptable self-expression, and what you wear has always said something about you. Frederick Douglass, suffragettes, in dressing well and dressing in power, but I think we've shifted to a time where that might not be as in a box as it used to be, where you have to wear the suit and tie.
Sure.
Sorry, Will, I'm calling you out
No.
as you are, but you look
This is a
great.
Shenton.
You look
So
fabulous.
it is a little.
Shentung silk?
Thank you.
But yeah, you have a little bit more flexibility and freedom in what you wear to the office, out with friends, to dinner. but I feel like it's becoming more considerate. Going back to, I'm not seeing as many leggings at the mall as I used to. I am seeing a wider pant leg. We were seeing it at the walk into the stadium by the NFL players with, I love the sweater polos. I went and bought my husband too.
There we go.
Immediately.
They're
with
great.
Oh my gosh, is it a Hiracha sandal?
Okay.
That woven loafer with a really clean pant.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there's just this shift, this desire.
Nicer casual. Garb.
And being in Charlotte, we do have a finance
The
bro.
bar is low.
We do have a finance bro uniform. Will, do you know about the finance bro uniform?
I do indeed. It's quite homogenous. Let's just call it that. What I find interesting.
Working on them one at a time.
I have been in the elevator in khakis and a blue button-up with men in khakis and a blue button-up, and it was like, oh.
And look, there's a way of doing it.
Sure.
There's to speak to your earlier point, there can be elements of it. I get that. Look, it has its place. I would just implore those individuals to perhaps take a leap at some point. That you've talked about this before, as far as standing out even within the workplace, and not standing out too much, elevating. And I think we're too quick to judge. Perhaps they just don't know.
I think that's a lot of it. They just don't know.
One,
And so-
accessibility, costs. There's so many factors into that.
There's, and I can say this from a guy perspective, being a busy male in the workforce, there's no time to think about stuff like that. I take somebody, we're in our early 40s, and Will and I
Not
speak
me.
for Erica.
Not me.
For most guys, if you're really business-minded, you're not creative-minded for the most part. There are exceptions.
Left brain, right brain.
There are exceptions. There are folks that...
Are you trying to tell us something there?
This is, I think, just men in general,
Men-
right?
okay.
Yeah.
Hey, watch it.
This is men in general, right? I mean, but I think, so as...
Some of us are unicorns, Brad.
There we go, yeah. But it's hard to be good at your day job and then also care about, are you dressed most effectively, right? So it's more, to Will's point, education. You don't know what you don't know. How many of our friends, we're just like, we kind of just shake our heads. We know they don't know any better. They should know better. They have the means. They have perhaps the connections, especially if we're their friend. So you would think there's no excuse, but there is, because they have life going on. And so I think it is an education piece that slowly we've been able to help with that. But there's still a lot of work left to do, gentlemen.
And sometimes I think it just takes us making the decision.
Yeah.
And not to say we're always right by any means. I love that when a client reaches out and says, hey, I want to try this color. I had that happen 2 weeks ago, and I thought, really? Good for you.
Guys are also notorious for procrastinating. We've had our best luck when we're proactive and we're saying, what do you need? So, what do you need?
What's coming up? Where are we going?
Where are we going? What events you got?
Yeah.
But also, this would be the OMJ pitch. That's what we do. This is what we do. Pay somebody to do what they do well, do that for you. If you've got the means, if you've got the desire, right? So,
Where's your patriotism?
Oh,
to OMJ. Yeah. Favorite era, Erica?
we know it's not the early 2000s.
I love that it's Erica. Get it?
Era, yeah.
You
Desperate
know-
Housewife?
I am honestly right now really loving that early J. Crew.
Yeah.
So I think that's that late 90s, early 2000, late 80s, early 90s. I have the Princess Diana long sweatshirt that she wore with the bike shorts.
Yeah.
I like going back to, I'm glad that scarves are having a resurgence. I'm so excited. Collars, a button up with jean shorts to
Yeah.
me I love that. So yeah, I think back to the basics of maybe late 80s, early 90s.
I love that. And I think we did, for a minute, we were seeing like the early 2000s, Desperate Housewives, Low Rise was making a bit of a comeback.
They were there, Brad. I mean,
Thankfully, a little show called Love Story came out, and I think turned the tide. And you've got Carolyn Bessette kind of
JFK Jr.
holding this off, right?
yes, coastal grandma is where I
Okay.
lean
Yeah.
in a trend.
Yeah.
Very back to the natural fibers, airy, breathy.
Mr. Jones, what is your favorite era?
Ooh, I'm going 1980s.
Oh,
It just speaks to
do
me.
tell.
There's something about that particular decade, having been a child of the 80s, at least for 4 or 5 years-ish. There's just something about it that there's a gravitational pull there for me. It was probably the first time that, say, watching like Back to the Beach from 1987, or watching Wall Street from 1987, or just there's so many wonderful movies, and just from a stylistic perspective, though, there's Giorgio Armani. Obviously, we're talking about American brands and so forth, but the silhouette that he cut, whether it be in American Gigolo, or it, with respect to Pat Riley coaching the Lakers.
Oh, all right.
That particular era, though, something about it has just always resonated.
Yeah. So,
Were
I
you
love
an
it.
Oshkosh Bagosh kid?
Oh, that thing. Yes.
Yeah.
And you, sir?
My favorite fashion era, I think this would also coincide with my favorite era of just living in America, although I have no experience with this. 1960s, Don Draper and Co. I feel like, I don't know, I think I was meant to live in the 60s. You have enough modern convenience, right? So we do have air conditioning, we do have telephones, we do have things like that, but it was just such a simpler time. And it was a time where, look, guys of all, no matter blue collar, white collar, guys cared about what they wore, and they wore a suit, and they wore a suit to church, and they wore a suit to the grocery store. And I just think it was just a time, it was such a great time where guys cared about what they wore and putting their best foot forward. And I love that.
I always giggled in the episodes of Mad Men when Don Draper was mowing the yard in his khakis,
Yeah.
belt,
I love this.
short sleeve button up, and loafers.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
The American man in the 60s, he cared about those things.
Definitely, and I still think what goes around comes around, because out of World War II, a lot of these guys, and when they were stationed abroad, they were taking in a lot of those nuances from a style perspective and really creating their own. I think of a lot of those gentlemen as really pioneering that era's style.
Yeah.
And all I can say about it is bring back the boozy lunch.
I would say the bar behind you is
And the cigarettes.
The cigarettes.
And the cigarette case.
Life expectancy has gone up
The monogram lighter.
quite a bit.
Sterling
Since then.
Cooper and Partners would be very impressed with what you've got
OJ,
here.
Sterling Cooper Draper Price collaboration.
Bring back the narrow lapel.
Yeah. Our store was inspired by mid-century modern era. All right, last question. Most important American brand. Eric.
I am leaning towards an LL Bean.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah.
Yes.
From their outerwear to their bags, I think they are accessible, approachable, and have really stood the test of time.
I would agree. As would my book bag from high school.
Fantastic. I still have one
Yep.
Yes.
with my initials.
With my
of course.
initials as well.
Yes.
And who can forget that eggplant purple? That was literally a color.
Yep.
I always laughed at that.
What about you?
So This answer is about as easy as proposing to my wife. It's got to be Ralph Lauren.
Yeah.
Yeah. And specifically Polo by Ralph Lauren.
Ah.
No one does it like Ralph. And I still pinch myself and also kick myself. He was on the beach in Jamaica down from me, 4 years ago, and I should have spoken to him. I did not. You never want to be disappointed by your heroes. I overheard his conversation. I was not disappointed. He is Ralph Lauren.
I love it.
And
I
you,
love
Brad.
And you, Brad?
I would go with Brooks Brothers, I believe. Yeah, a storied history of really bringing fashion, I think, to me, that's where it starts. And even tying it in back to OMJ, selfishly as I do, our first factory was owned by Brooks Brothers. Garland, North Carolina. This is where Brooks Brothers was
Golden
made.
Fleece.
This is where Brooks Brothers was made. This is where every made in America brand that was worth anything, well, this is a big place where it was made. Without them, we wouldn't be here today either, likely.
And without them, we wouldn't have Ralph Lauren either.
True.
Same.
Very true. All right. Again, we did it somehow, but I think this would be great to dive into. We'll see as time permits. Could really go down a rabbit hole with each of these eras, with each of these
Same.
brands.
If anybody would like us to dive deeper in any of them, let us know.
We are looking for a sponsor. So, yeah. But that's the podcast today, guys. So remember, subscribe, ask us questions, right? We'll do a mailbag and a few more episodes, and those are always fun.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And closing thought, I had written down, American fashion has never been about telling people who they should be. It's about giving people the freedom to decide who they want to become. There we go. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So I think one thing we didn't cover, or we should talk about, sweet, sweet Lily Pulitzer.
Oh, Lily Pulitzer.
Ooh, Viva La Palm Beach.
That's
Yes.
right. Give me some monkeys or elephants hidden in my pattern.
Slim Aarons.
I do have a Lily Pulitzer tie.
Lovely.
I do. Yeah.
I have some boxer shorts.
Yeah.
I've had numerous ties by Lily as well.
I love it.
And I've saved all of my dresses from college, the sorority years, for
Yeah.
my daughter.
There we go.
Exactly. Oh, man, we should do just a whole episode on hats in the Kentucky Derby.
There we go.
Ah,
That's awesome.
all right. There you have it.
There we have it. Awesome.